Hey guys, and welcome to McD's POV on Ascendant. It's a recently released title, actually came out this week on Steam. It's a beat-em-up roguelike, and it was developed by Hapa Games. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hapa? H-A-P-A. But nonetheless, it's a roguelike that shares a lot of similarities to, Spelunky, Binding of Isaac, all of those fun games that I really adore and sink tons of hours into. Let's go ahead and start with the tutorial. It's very short, but it'll get us both reacquainted with the actual controls. But what's the background? What's the story here? Well, essentially you're a demigod and you're tasked with conquering a neighboring world controlled by your, rival demigods. You don't remember anything, do you? I don't. That's why I'm in the tutorial. But we are this demigod here. We're going to use A to jump, and if you hold A, obviously you're going to jump higher. These are just going to start showing up. You do have a dash with a right or left bumper, and of course you can use the Xbox 360 controller. That's what I'm doing. I believe mouse and keyboard also goes for this. You can, of course, it's just going to be kind of bringing us along here and, just getting us comfortable with the controls. Very fluid. The controls are pretty responsive, at least that's how I feel. So, okay, we're gonna head up here and just go through this obstacle course, drop through with the left stick and A, and continue on. We're gonna run into some enemies now. Launch the pot at him. So you do have a couple attacks. You have a regular attack, which is X, kind of a light attack. You have Y as your strong attack, and you can just use items in the environment to attack your enemies. So with Y, with our strong attack, it'll just kind of hit the enemy here and knock them out. These little guys we run into quite a bit, at least in the opening parts of the game. We're going to move through, and yeah, so we've got our regular attack. It's staggered, yeah, so once you see the yellow outline, that means the enemy is staggered, and you can launch staggered enemies with the Y button. And you can do it in any direction you want, just using the left stick. So say like right and Y is going to obviously fling them forward, and then, up and Y it will launch them into the air. Stagger, aim, and yeah, that's what we want. But I want to be able to hit this guy right here, which I'm already failing. There we go. And the tutorial is going to make us go through this a bit. But like I was saying, the, controls pretty simple, but also pretty rewarding, or pretty satisfying, I would say. Hey, you stay right there. Now you're gonna come across multiple paths. Obviously, why are you not letting me go this way? Are you going to? No, I have to destroy the enemy. There we go. There's gonna be set enemies in a room. It's gonna be randomized, of course, because it is a roguelike, and the only way to progress into another room is to defeat all of the enemies. So now we want to be able to move forward. And blink attack. So blink attack is pretty much like, hey, you're close enough where you can just rush in and do an attack. So if you're going towards an enemy, just control with the left stick and at the same time hit X, and you will fly forward and just hit your enemy. And another thing is, once you end up defeating a room of enemies, a chest will appear. X will knock it open, and we picked up max health up. That's another thing I can't wait to go over, and we'll touch base when we actually hop into the game. But the items that you can pick up are pretty insane. Or not insane, but just the amount of items is insane. There's lots. Again, I kind of like to think of Binding of Isaac, where there's like about 100 different items in the game. That's probably about 90 in here, I would like to think. As you can just see, you can dash through projectiles, which I constantly forget when I'm playing this game. I'm very bad at dodging, but another way to handle that would be parrying, and I can show that. Oh, it's going to show right now. If you time your parry by pressing B, it will just knock the shot back at an enemy. Hey, there we go. I'm not too bad right now, but yeah, it's just I have a hard time kind of grasping that at points. Another thing is, instead of just the hack and slashing that we have here and the parrying, we also have spells that we can cast. We do have a mana counter, which isn't visible right now. But if we want to cast spells, we're going to hold the left trigger. And all we do is use the left analog stick to aim where we want to hit our spell. And if you're holding the left trigger, that will put you in spell mode. Just tap X and you'll be able to shoot some spells, which I missed this guy right here. Good, again. Again. Spell stands. And well, hey. There we go. Why'd it take 2 hits to knock you out? Oh, now they're not just doing 1-hit kills for the tutorial. They actually want you to use all of your spells to take them out. Oh, I'm supposed to be parrying. So much for a tutorial if I don't pay attention to it. And man, I hate those enemies. We'll see those guys soon. These kind of like worms, poison worms. They're a pain in the ass. You can also, of course, parry regular attacks. You know what? Now that I'm going through the tutorial again, I should probably try to use my parrying a bit more. Maybe I'll end up staying alive a lot longer. You do have a path that's this way. Thank you, arrows. I wish these were in the actual game. One of the difficulties for me is me having poor eyesight. If I'm not looking at the map system, I get confused as to where I can actually enter and leave an area. I see the spirits have come to your aid. Amusing. Spirit of haggling. Again, just like a chest, if you hit X over it, you'll be able to pick up the spirit here. And we have Spirit of the Slayer. Damage versus bosses up. Spirit of Luck, you feel lucky. The breaths of the gods are perfect when all seems lost. So these are just, you know, some of the many upgrades that you can pick up. Breaths are actually something else that's a one-time use. Oh, thank you for explaining that, tutorial. If you pick up a breath, it is a one-time use. Instead of the left trigger for your spells, you're going to hold a right trigger. Actually, I believe just tapping it. And they will have different effects. This one just will do a bunch of damage in that area. So, Blessing from the Gods, use them wisely. We got Blessing of Agni. Now, these blessings can be dropped from boss fights. And what's unique about Ascendant's blessings is you can put them in certain spots of your character. Now, some of these have question marks on them. That means I have yet to put the blessing in that particular spot. But other ones actually have descriptions. I have put them in there. So if I put the Blessing of Agni on my sword, attacks may set for a blaze. If I put it in my hand, which is my spell hand, spells explode on impact. I have yet to put them in the center, my being, so let's put it on there. Causes explosions when hit. So, and that's a new discovery. If you hit start, when that comes up, you'll see your page here. You'll get to review some of the discoveries you've made, what they do for your body, what they do for your spell, and what they do for your weapon. So now, fight or die, kill all foes to leave. So let's go ahead and fight these guys. I don't have any breaths on me, but, oh, I wanted to try to parry, but that didn't work. I'm gonna sit and use some of my spells here. And we'll get these guys staggered and do some strong attacks to knock them out. Hey, you're supposed to be knocked out. Get into stagger mode. Oh, more of you guys, eh? Well, I'm fairly certain we'll make quick work of you. Another cool thing is when you're attacking an enemy, if you're in midair or you're jumping and you're attacking them, you will just chill in midair, kind of just doing a combo. Think Final Fantasy. But let's move through here. And now it wants to show us the health and all of the other on-screen displays. So, that is our health filling up. We can take a certain amount of hits. Our mana, which is filling up. Breaths, which are the one-time use item that we just worked on in the last room. How many keys you can hold, and I believe influence. Yes, influence, which is your currency. Think of pennies, nickels, and dimes in Isaac. Influence is used to purchase items from shops throughout the game. You do have your map. There's two different forms of it. If you use the back button or select, if you want to call it that, it'll pop up this map. And this is the room map. This will show you where all of any of the active enemies are in this room. It will show where you are. It will show where the exits are. And then if you tap again, this is actually the dungeon layout for this particular floor. So black rooms are shown by what you've or resemble rooms that you have already been in. Gray rooms are ones that you have yet to go into and take care of. And if you hold back, it'll just pull up a big version of the map. It also gives you kind of a key as to what the items are if you see it. So like boss room looks like kind of like a squid thing. It'll be over a room that you haven't been in yet, so you'll be like, okay, the boss is coming up. And they don't highlight that until I think you're into a room that is adjacent to it. So Good. Very good. Press start. Go to the character sheet. And if you want to go to the character sheet, it'll give you a kind of a rundown of your current character. This is a permadeath game, so if you die, you have to start all the way over. But this will give you a rundown of the current run that you're on. Kind of giving you an idea of how much damage you're doing, your speed, how much your spell damage is, and your stagger effect, how many, or like what spirits you have equipped, also what weapons and what spells you have. Those, you can actually pick up different weapons and spells throughout a run, kind of swap up and do more damage, or have different effects on your spells. That is all I can teach you. Good luck. All right. So, pretty easy tutorial. But now that we're acquainted with the, move system, which, again, pretty basic, but fun, we're going to go ahead and start a game. Now, like some roguelikes, you get to choose from different characters. There are unlockable ones, which, of course, are still locked for me, because I've only put about 2.5 hours into the game, and I'm really excited to see what, attributes these guys have. But you do have Memnon. Healthy, possesses no disadvantage. Basically, your vanilla character. Just your run-of-the-mill, no pluses, no minuses to this character. And the other one that started when I played the game, or when I booted the game up for the first time, was Theseus. Heals after slaying bosses and knocked back farther. They also give you a little description of them. We're going to go ahead and start with Memnon, and press start to join. You see that up at the top right. This is 2-player. It does have 2-player mode, which I have yet to try out. Maybe I'll get the old lady to boot it up with me. But there are certain floors. I believe, from my knowledge, there is 2 floors per area. So we're starting with early spring. If we beat this area, we are going to go ahead and head into late spring. Each floor will have a boss. And I believe most floors will also have, shops and stuff as well. Let's go ahead and just start attacking these pots in this room. You will always start in a non-aggroed, non-enemy filled room. But yeah, pots can sometimes have, influence and hearts in them. And we're going to move forward here. And you can see right when you come into the room, a new room, it's going to show you the room layout, not the actual map layout or the floor layout. And I'm going to go ahead and just make my way through and try to destroy all of the enemies. And of course, not take damage. We want to save that just in case we run into a little bit of trouble with the bosses. There are some obvious hazards. You've got spikes up there that you want to avoid. Hey! I believe if you can get a staggered enemy, you can use them to combo into other enemies. So I took out that worm just by knocking a staggered enemy into him. Hey, will you die? Thank you. We're going to pick up a chest. And, yeah. So the combat, actually reminds me of Guacamelee, I think, with your light and strong attacks and being able to just knock other enemies out by flinging them into one another. And nice segue, we've actually ran into a challenge room. Raijin removes your powers and presents a trial. I have yet to do this. I don't know if I want to do this, but just for the sake of it, let's explore, shall we? Some challenge rooms you want to get in here and just avoid taking damage. So let's try to do that. And if we complete the challenge, I think we're going to get an upgrade of some sort. I'm just going to keep continuing to jump through all of these quote-unquote hoops here. These spell orbs that are doing damage. Wow, they take off a whole heart per hit. But you can see I am getting closer, and I'm just, going through, just taking the damage, which I shouldn't. And we are bestowed a gift. What is this? Blessing of Raijin. And I have yet to put this on any of my character. So let's put it into our sword. Attacks may summon chain lightning. Hey, I like that. That's pretty cool. You can see that we've also picked up 3 influence along the way. Again, I believe, the minimum amount to spend at a shop to get an item is like 15. At least that's what I've seen so far. I haven't covered much of this game. I think I've only gotten like 4 floors in. But you can pick up items such as like keys and some health. But let's go ahead and move up here. A couple more enemies. Oh, there's that chain lightning. And it was, wow, it took out that worm that was completely off screen. Very nice. Hey, I want you to die. Thank you. And I could use some health here. We actually picked up a 5% boost to melee damage. So, again, going to the character sheet, you can see kind of like what our overall is over here for our melee and our spell damage. Now, you can see that just from the floor map, there's 2 ways to exit, and this is where I was talking about, this is what I was talking about earlier, where I have difficult times trying to find some of the exits. This is easy. I know it's right here, but there are ones that are like in the foreground as opposed to the background, or in the middle ground like this. If this was going to be our exit, sometimes I just don't notice them if they're in the middle of the actual room as opposed to the far sides. But let's go ahead and head over to the room to the right. The icon that you see up there resembles a chest. That means there's going to be a chest that we can open in here. Sometimes this room will have a chest that requires a key. This one does not, so we can bash it open and pick up the Breath of Skady. Use Flash Freeze. I have no idea what that does. Drastically slows surrounding enemies for 25 seconds. So, of course, it is a one-time use. Let's see here. Head over to here. And we're going to head up the platforms, making sure that we knock into all the pots, because we're going to pick up influence and health sometimes. And these little guys, I don't even know what these guys, what their names are, but they're like the pretty much, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they're called grunts, to be honest, because that's exactly what they are. They make the sound effects of the grunts from Halos, or from Halos. They make the sound effect from the grunts of Halo. They're just really easy. You saw that I picked up a key, and there's 2 rooms that we can go into. If we go up here, we have the boss room, obviously, as foretold by the map. But if we go over to the left, we can use our key to unlock this room with the purple icon in there. That signifies a shop that would either take influence or health. We can't be sure, or at least I haven't figured out a way to tell at this point. But if you have a key, just smack this lock, and it will unlock, and we'll move into this room. And the shops are going to be kind of represented by this, it's not really a tombstone, but this idol here, this rock formation. If you just tap X, that will interact with it, and we are at a shop. This one actually requires influence. We don't have enough to get anything, but you can see we could purchase some breaths. We can get a whole heart out of it, spirits, and some spells. And we would just be able to swap what spell we have. So it's kind of like trading up. If I wanted to obtain the Lesser Astral Mind, I would purchase it, and I would have to trade up on whatever spell I have right now, which is the Soul Shard. Soul Shard kind of sounds like Dark Souls. But we're getting a little low on health here, so I'm probably going to get into the boss fight. Hope it's an easier boss. And probably use my breath, which will slow enemies for 25 seconds. Probably not the boss, though. And unfortunately, it's the Maw. I hate this starting boss. Again, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get him every time, but he is probably the biggest pain. Kind of like, I would say, again, using Binding of Isaac terminology here, I would rather face the Duke of Flies as opposed to, God, what is Steven? Steven's probably not much more difficult, but a bit more difficult than Duke of Flies, because, you know, Steven has the many projectiles that he can catch you with. So the Maw, the best strategy I have found is to sit, is to sit and stay on the opposite end of the room and fire mana or magic at him. Oh, thank you, Chain Lightning, doing a little bit of damage here. Oh, I forgot I can dash through this stuff. That's a good technique. But once you do enough damage, he's going to sprout these little baby guys. And again, I'm not great at parrying, so I used to die at this boss all the time just from those little guys. But now that I've realized that I can dash through attacks, I should probably start doing that more often. It's going to make this boss much easier for me. So you can see I'm not able to fire out as much. Oh, jeez. I'm not able to fire out as much mana because I'm using it up a lot, and I need it to recharge. And I can't hit them with spells, unfortunately. So let's go ahead, knock a couple hits, and just dash out, dash back in. A couple more hits, and there we go. We got one more left. Playing it very calmly. Ah, jeez. I was about to beat the boss, but we're dead. That's it. You get one chance. That's one shot, and then you're going to have to go back to the start screen, start all over. But it does give you kind of a little bit of a recap here. How much time you spent in, how much damage you did overall, how many times you parried, pots, blah, 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 blah. It also tells you what enemy gave you the biggest trouble, and of course that was the Maw. I took the most damage during that fight. Now, it's just sending me back to the start screen, but sometimes, at least when you start the game, the first couple times you go through, you will unlock certain items for beating certain bosses for maybe your first time, or doing a bunch of damage, so they will recap you on that screen as well. But that is Ascendant, guys. It's kind of a short POV because, you know, it's a roguelike. There's tons of stuff to discover, and I don't want to ruin it for you. I highly suggest going to pick it up. It is super fun. It's going to have loads of hours of replayability, tons of unlockables, some very soothing music as well, and a unique animation design. It's currently going for $10. Actually, the regular price is $10. If you're picking it up this week on Steam, it is $8.99 as opposed to $9.99. And yeah, for those of you that don't mind being spoiled, look forward to a possible series in the near future on the channel. You know, I put Spelunky away for a while, and I'm thinking about picking up another roguelike to whet my appetite. So, of course, there will be a link in the description below for this video if you guys want to pick it up. Again, I highly recommend it, and thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and comment on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.